Happy not yet Halloween, everybody! I have an actual Halloween video planned for the 31st, but until then, here's something to hold you guys over. We are all scared of something. Unless you're an alpha Chad like me who doesn't afraid of anything. At least, I am now. When I was a teeny tiny baby man, I was pretty much scared of anything that moved. No exaggeration. So I want to take this video to go over everything that I could remember scaring me as a child. I know this is not a very unique concept, however, for one, everyone has different experiences, and for two, I especially have different experiences because most of these people who make those videos are older, while I mostly have experiences from the 2000 era. So, yeah, most of these are just like, boomers who talk about 80s and 90s stuff. I'm a cancer. I'm gonna separate this into categories based on the media the moment it's from. Let's get started. Movies are definitely a thing that exists. Most of these are animated, though there are 3 live-action ones. Jumanji was the big one, because a big freaking lion suddenly getting summoned out of nowhere is no fun. Neither is a monkey who have knives and haven't taken their medication. The second is my namesake, Gremlins. This freaking gremlin in the Christmas tree freaked me out so much, and I don't know why. Something more understandable was the one with the knife, and even the one who dies in the microwave. This film is notable because, as you'll see later, my reaction to a lot of things that scared me is avoiding it in its entirety, while Gremlins was one of the few things that intrigued me and stuck with me, despite scaring me, which is why I named myself after the main villain. Fun strike lore. Finally, there's Willy Wonka. I know what you're thinking, the tunnel scene, but actually, no, it never bothered me. It's the Oompa Loompas. Seriously, it spooked me that they just randomly appeared out of nowhere, singing about how a child got murdered. Their songs are haunting, and frick you, it's scary. On to animated films though. Oh boy, where did I start? The only non-Disney film here is Monster House. The trailer terrified me, especially with the dog getting eaten, and the film itself having a house be super spooky and also all the human characters being butt ugly didn't help either. As for Disney, is there any Disney film that doesn't have that one scene that scares everyone? Forrest from Snow White, the spinning wheel scene from Sleeping Beauty, Heather's Horseman, Scar's death, Clayton's death, this freaking face. A couple of these stand out. The entirety of Pinocchio, for example, demon-faced sweaty man, turning into a furry, Vor, not a fun time for a child. King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph is more modern, but it still petrified me. This thing was huge, powerful, and just an absolute abomination. Not to mention it's actually really intelligent, which is just, stop, no, bad, don't do this to me, Disney. The worst Disney scares for me was the bear from Fox and the Hound. At the end of the better Disney film about a fox facing prejudice just because he's more than a fox, a big freaking bear decides to pop in. I'm scared of bears. People always say that's weird. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm scared of the 10-foot tall, bulletproof, razor sharp teeth and claws, can destroy your freaking skull in a single bite kill monster. I'm clearly the dumb one in this situation. I'm the one who's not smart. Susan! The 2 that scared me the most were grizzlies because they're freaking huge, and black bears because they're the only ones who can both swim and climb trees. So I'm boned no matter which way I try to escape. The one, the fox and the hound, is the size of a grizzly and the color of a black bear. So basically it was scientifically created to just terrify me and me alone. I should mention I'm only scared of bears when I'm actively threatened by them, not all the time like a certain other animal I'll talk about later. I don't have nightmares over freaking Winnie the Pooh. It's only when they're actively trying to attack the protagonist, like in Brave. Clever segue to Pixar. Cars may be a cinematic masterpiece, but the scene where the heckin' crop harvester murders Chick Hicks in The Lightning's Nightmare always give me nightmares as well. Make chicken teeth. The only other Pixar film that scared me, arguably more than anything else in this section, is Toy Story. Now again, you may think you know where I'm going with this. It's mutant toys. But no, I never minded them. What I minded was Sid. No, seriously. This child from the same place all children are from terrified me beyond belief. For reasons I don't really understand. I mean, he's a rude kid, he's got a bad case of British, but I legit hated this movie because Sid scared me so much. Which is a distinction none of the other films on here had. Maybe it was just the whole thing of someone bigger than me torturing a bunch of harmless people. I don't know. If this was ordered, he'd be number 5. Keep that in mind. I surprisingly don't have a lot of entries here. Probably because I didn't really play much besides Nintendo games as a child. I mean, of course there was a few creepy moments, like the piano from Mario 64. The big one though is Zero from Dreamland 3. This is one of the lightest, cutest games ever made. And the final level, we get this giant eyeball who attacks you by bleeding. It seems all fine enough until suddenly There's 2 more in this category, but I'm gonna save those for later. Oh boy, there's so much here! I guess I'll start with the only anime on here, Sonic X. In one episode, the gang goes on a mansion with a bunch of ghosts. These are King Boom Boo and his crew, a minor boss from Sonic Adventure 2 that I don't really think much of. Here though, this happens. Why does this happen? They also send all their victims to the void as basically husks. The king isn't scary visually, he just kind of looks like he had a thing of rainbow sherbet ice cream. The Booms though have these freaking eyes. Moving over to the west, there's a lot of scenes in SpongeBob that freak people out, but for me, the only time I was scared was by this scene with Wormy. I don't like bugs. Remember that. Dark Harvest from Invader Zim. This is literally the most talked about episode in television ever, but if you haven't seen it somehow, this. In Rugrats, there's a scene where Angelica tells a story about a monster underneath the bed who eats a kid. I distinctly remember after watching this, when I went to bed, I jumped from the doorframe to my bed so I didn't have to deal with a monster eating me. I was never scared of clowns. Only one clown broke that rule. It was this fricker. In this Scooby-Doo episode, the villain is a clown with hypnotism powers. I don't know why, but this clown gave me the I want to be in this general area feeling. In the Halloween episode of Ed, Edd and Eddy, Ed constantly sees all of his friends as monsters because he's been watching too many monster movies. For Kevin, he saw him as Headless Horseman, and something about Kevin's decapitated head really freaked me out. The Powerpuff Girls episode Speed Demon also freaked me out. In it, the girls go to the future, and in it, everything is messed up. Professor thinks the girls are hallucinations. Miss Kine has been standing still traumatized for decades. The mayor is dead. The rest of the town is basically zombies, and him took over the entire town. I never found him that scary, but something about this moment really freaked me out. Mostly because this is one of the very few times he wasn't comedic at all. Also, none of the other villains appear in the future, highly suggesting that him murdered them. At Father's Home, there is an episode where Blue tries to get away from Cheese because he finds him annoying. Blue freaks out that when he needs to find Cheese again, and he starts imagining all the awful things that could happen to him, including this one with a big monster eating cheese. And this absolutely horrified me. I assume it says we're gonna get eaten by a monster after seeing this. In an episode of Camp Lazlo, the main cast gets threatened by this giant monster called Meat Man. Right before he eats Lazlo, it's revealed to be a campfire story. All's well that ends well. Until it's revealed that, no, Meat Man is real, killed Lazlo and friends, and will likely kill the rest of the camp, which it ended up doing in another nightmare of mine. I didn't even like this show that much, yet I still had a nightmare about it. I feel like that speaks volumes to how much it scared me. At the end of the Billy and Mandy episode, Something Stupid This Way Comes, the character Nurgle turns to everyone into clones of himself, so he can gain friends. It's then where out of nowhere, he talks to the camera and electrocutes it, turning the viewer into a Nurgling. This shocked me so much. It wasn't even my first experience with fourth wall jokes or someone threatening the viewer. Heck, the start of every episode of this very show has Mandy threatening the viewer. But something about how unexpected this is, along with the way the episode just ends with it, stuck with me. Nurgle ain't even that scary, it's a complete pushover, but this is just the big scary. Now obviously I didn't turn into a Nurgling, but I didn't know that as a kid. Now you may be thinking, hey Stripe, there's a lot of late 90s to early 2000s era Cartoon Network shows on here. Are you going to talk about that one show that everyone is legally required to mention when they're talking about childhood traumas? Well, I was going to, but the internet me, so frick you, we're ending this segment off with Magic School Bus. You all know where this is going, Arnold freezing to death. Because clearly child murder is what you'd expect from a show like this. Yes, he was immediately revived, but still, seeing a character I really liked freeze to death and being picked on for, let's be real, the entire series, was a big yikes. Okay, so this seems like a weird, subject for this video, but this did have a big effect on me, because I did grow up in, the Wild West days of the internet, where there was no real regulation, and anything you could be easily found anywhere, no matter how fricked up it is. You probably realize, I got scared easily as a kid, so to desensitize myself, I actually tried to search out scary things, and that's kind of a bad thing when you grew up in this time. Yeah. Creepypastas are a big example. Though it's too bad looking back, most suck hard. There's a few good ones that hold up, like Candle Cove or NES Godzilla, but the two that scare me the most are unfortunately Sonic.exe and Jeff the Killer. These two are objectively pretty unscary, both full of tropes they do nothing new with, and are edgier than Shadow the Hedgehog seeing Linkin Park at Hot Topic, but gosh dang it, they spooked me hard. Sonic.exe especially, I had a nightmare where it killed me. A less awful creepypasta I want to highlight is Smile Dog. It's simply an image of a scary dog that will appear in your dreams, according to the post, if you don't share it around. Even easily scared me laughed this off. You'll never guess what appeared in my dream that night. And there's something that's not a creepypasta, the Bong Shing Dong Ghost. You've probably heard of this before. A South Korean webcomic that starts pretty normal, but has these suddenly animated moments, one of the few jump scares on these lists. And this is one of my first experiences with these kinds of comics. I got through the entire comic though because I kept laughing at Dong. The early internet days were filled with creepy parodies of children's media. I'm not really the biggest fan of these, because they're mostly just innocent thing, but now it's got blood and sex and swears laugh. But the one that really stuck with me probably wasn't supposed to. In this college humor sketch, Bowser's minions wonder why they have arbitrary restrictions on them and try to rebel against Bowser. It's not until Mauser, who, fun fact, was never actually Bowser's minion since he only appears in Mario 2, which Bowser isn't in, 0 out of 10, runs up and kills Bowser. Nothing too bad has happened, there's like some swearing, but whatever. But then the minions come in and attack Mario in brutal fashion, and it gets worse when Birdo, who also isn't Bowser's minion, inhales Mario's head, strips it of flesh, and leaves it as just a skull. This completely rocked my world. Not only did I have nightmares of it, but I was unable to look at Mauser and Birdo the same way for like a year. Okay, this section is like probably the most dark one so far because, you know, these aren't for kids and these weren't regulated like the rest. Let's end this with something a bit lighter. Brawl in the Family is a real comic showing Nintendo characters in various silly situations. I love this comic growing up, and its versions of a lot of characters are what I headcanon a lot of the characters in Nintendo games to be. They're mostly pretty lighthearted, though their Halloween strips do dip a bit darker. Not by that much though, besides the 2013 one. In this, Kirby goes mad and eats all of his friends, turning this grotesque monster. I have seen so many evil Kirbys that this didn't do much to me, but something about the design of this one especially stuck out. Must because of how fast and loose they played with how the abilities affect Kirby's appearance. The thing that really scared me though was how this came to be. Apparently his friends were being mean to him, and that caused him to snap, which for some reason just really scared me. I can't explain it. It gets wrapped up nicely, and even if it didn't, it is non-canon to the rest of Brawl in the Family, so that's all good. Don't do this, my precious little bean. Okay, so this all feels like a weird category, but I have these, just the 4 things that just scared me more than anything else as a kid. Like these, legitimately, when I was in a dark room, I would see these 4 things. Yeah, there's not much else to say. Let's get into this. The easiest to explain is Pink Elephants from Dumbo. This scene came out of nowhere, had a haunting song, had elephants shapeshifting into different weird creatures, and the song itself changes tone more than my own voice. I already alluded to the next one. Let's talk about courage. If you grew up in the early 2000s like I did, you were guaranteed to have nightmares of at least one Courage episode. Though I was a lucky little lad, and I had several. This fricker, that fricker, these frickers, those frickers, and especially this mother fricker. But the one that refused to leave my mind, the one that I saw in the shadows with the giant purple foot monster, it was King Ramses. I know, basic pick, but don't blame me. Blame 6-year-old me. Or blame whoever made this episode, and made Ramses the scariest freaking thing ever made. He has this uncanny CGI, comes arguably the closest to killing the main cast, actually does kill these 2 at the beginning, and of course, he speaks in this slow, droning monotone voice. Everyone was terrified of this episode, admit it. Those 2 are unanimous, everyone was scared of those. But this one is personal. The entire list was personal, but this was like extra personal. One of my first experiences with Pokemon was looking up various images of them when I first heard of the franchise. This is mostly just standard Pokemon things you'd expect. Then suddenly, this image. This freaking image. I had nightmares on this thing for no joke several months straight. He's an evil spirit with no redeeming qualities, unnatural movements, and this face. I tried my hardest to avoid the creature no matter what. It was my literal sleep paralysis demon, given form, and it terrified me more than anything else mentioned so far. But the good thing is that Spiritomb is just a static image. He's a card, he's pixel art. After a while, I just kind of grew bored of Spiritomb. He had no effect on me. Then the anime happened. Okay, so no joke, like 3 days after I finally overcame my fear, the anime episode The Keystone Pop decided to exist. Most episodes of this generation tend to humanize scary Pokemon like Darkrai and Dusknoir. Yeah, this episode didn't do that. Spiritomb here still has a backstory of being 108 evil spirits. Second he awaits, he destroys the town, threatens the main cast, is basically invulnerable, and in general makes me do the big cry for 30 hours straight. After this episode, my nightmares came back full force. God, I should have hated Spiritomb when I was younger. And I'll still admit, I hold a bit of a grudge against him. Not even being a part of the best girl of Cynthia's team could have redeemed this thing for literally ruining my life for 2 straight years. And despite all that, it's still only the second scariest thing from my childhood. And honestly, my number 1 deserves a section all to itself. So it's gonna get that. It's spiders. If you know anything about me or my channel, you know that I hate spiders. It's my biggest fear, it's bleh. But the thing is, everyone's scared of spiders. And the thing is, everyone knows everyone is scared of spiders, so people will put spiders in literally everything. This is both for us all. One episode of the Spider-Man cartoon, Peter becomes a human-sized spider and attacks his friends. In Twilight Princess, one of the first bosses was a giant armored spider with this unholy creature inside of it. In the very first Pokemon episode I ever saw, yes really, Dawn and Piplup get tied up by a group of Gyarados and nearly eaten. Going back to Jumanji, they thought it was a smart idea to make spiders the size of dogs. It wasn't. Mrs. Sunny Spider Patch Friends. No! In Billy and Mandy again, a recurring character was Jeff the Spider. I didn't mind him that much because he was a pretty cartoony and actually a nice guy. There was a few parts they decided to make him up close and scary. Then they made a special called The Wrath of the Spider Queen. I wasn't a fan of this film, I don't remember why. After it was this, it was all of this, it was every single one of this. If there was any scene with a slightly more realistic spider, it terrified me. Honestly, most of these do creep me out still a little bit, but the worst one has got to be this one. The scariest thing to me as a kid, the final of the big four creatures I saw in the shadow, the thing that's haunted all of my dreams, was Aragog from Harry Potter. This thing scared me so much. It is the only thing that scares me to this very day that's on this list. And I hate it so much, I'm not going to show any footage. I'm legitimately that scared of this thing. I'm not going to look up any footage. If I ever rewatch the second Harry Potter film, I will just close my eyes during the scene. You may say, why don't you just skip it? That's because if I skip it, I would have to see this thing. I don't want to do that. Okay. If you haven't seen the second Harry Potter film for some reason, it's a freaking giant spider, realistic looking spider. It's the most realistic one on the list. It has it tries to kill Harry and Ron. It's freaking scary. It sends its army of babies against them, and they crawl over the car, and it's gross. I hate it. It's disgusting. Why? Why? This video will probably start making people send me images of Spiritomb Aragog because I hate all my friends. They all suck. Everything sucks. You suck. Frick you. Halloween is canceled. Not really. New Halloween video coming out on the 31st. I'm done. Frick you all. Frick spiders broke. Merry Christmas! Please tell me the chair isn't broken.
You will be my closest, most bestest friend, or